Coming to you from the Beer to Whiskey Studios, high atop Barley's Tap Room on Washington Street in downtown Greenville, South Carolina. I'm Russ Heaps, and this is my good buddy here, Big John Richards. And this is one of our episodes of Beer 101. And in this, I get my buddy Big John to talk a little bit about some aspect of beer or beer drinking or beer history or beer whatever that we think that you might be interested in, might help you out as you plow your way through beerdom. And having said that, Big John, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, that's a good question, Russ. We spent so much time talking about kind of the how and the what of beer, but never the why. And I thought it'd be fun to sit down and...
Because we like it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Hey, live filming, there you go. It's happening right behind us in a live restaurant. All right, here we go. So the fun part is what we've been neglecting. You know, we get to talk about ABV and IBU, what all the numbers mean and where they all came from and whether German beers are better or... So I thought it'd be fun to sit down and talk about what makes beer different and why one of us would choose a beer over a glass of wine or a whiskey or a water, and what we enjoy about beer and what really brings us to the table versus what beer brings to us at the table. So they're sort of bound up together, but I thought I'd start talking about first and foremost, for me, it's the way beer works with food. One of my favorite things to do is pairing beer with food and the interactions that happen and how beer makes food taste differently or better or less or more, and vice versa. And so much of that's bound up in the carbonation. And that's one of the things that differentiates beer from all of the rest of the beverages versus Coca-Cola, you know, and your,
right.
Your carbonated soft drinks. But those are bad for you. People shouldn't drink those.
Stick with beer.
Yeah,
that's our advice.
Really, honestly.
But you know, people talk about pairing wines with food.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't even think about pairing beer with food.
But beer is so much more versatile with food than any of the other alcohols are. At least primarily because of the carbonation. And there's a couple things carbonation does to you. One makes your tongue taste more. So when you drink a carbonated beer, the actual carbonic acid that's in there registers on your tongue, and it tastes a certain way, but the actual bubbles make it pop and move. So when it washes over your tongue, we talk about the scrubbing bubbles that knock the edges off. So you're eating a big heavy cream pasta dish or cheese something, or a heavy big reduction on a duck breast or something like that, and you need that carbonation to cut through the heaviness and the weight of that flavor, and it will leave you with the actual flavor of the cheese or the sauce without you feeling the weight and the heaviness of it so much. And it's one of the things that the rest of those beverages cannot do. One of the big secrets of the wine business, or really it's the art business, don't tell them that we know this, but one of the big secrets is that wine and cheese don't go well together. And when art installations serve you terrible wine for free with the cheese is there to make you not taste the wine.
See, you didn't know that. I didn't know that. There you go.
The cheese is so powerful that you eat it and you can no longer taste the wine. Whereas with a carbonated beverage like a beer, it's going to cut through the weight of that cheese and leave you with the flavors of both, and they mix together. I mean, they're made from the same ingredient. Effectively, they're both made from grass. Well, the grass passes through a cow first, and the grass
which is a whole nother thing as far as I'm concerned. But go ahead.
But they both come from grass.
Okay.
In the grandest scheme of things, they're made from a grass. And those flavors don't change. They're the same flavors. So we're actually talking about something that really, really complements the other thing. Secondly, as we move...
Take a breath and have a sip of beer.
I'm going to get there.
I know, but
don't worry.
We're drinking Allagash Curio, which is
Yeah, we are.
which is one of my. We discussed what we're going to drink with this segment because this isn't really based on the beer that we're drinking, and they happen to be pouring.
Nevertheless,
They happen to be pouring this at Barley's right now, and they often have it on tap here, and so we opted for this.
and you know what leads right into what I was going to lead into next, which is the food flavors of beer, because this, you know, when you start sipping this, you have to kind of wait for it because there's a ton of flavor in a beer like
Right.
this. It's a big 11% Belgian style triple that's aged in bourbon barrels, then blended back with fresh Curia or with fresh triple to create this wonderful thing. But get those neat coconut flavors and vanilla and the tiniest little toffee sweetness in the back of that, and then some of the oak from the barrel. And specifically, I wanted to talk about the food flavors because so little really comes out of a wine or a whiskey for food flavor. You're not going to get real chocolate out of a whiskey, and really very rarely out of a wine, and it's usually a product of aging if you do. But you can carry chocolate, you can carry different kinds of berries that can be added in or can be products of the yeast. You can get your citrus flavors and your fruit backbone from hops and from some of the other ingredients that really, really pair with food in ways that whiskey and wine can't do.
Right.
And so if you really want to create an experience at your table, you're better off using beer than you are using wine or whiskey, especially if you take some time to investigate what might happen, what you might be, pick up a book or read a blog and say, oh, you know what, with this dish I should try blank and see what happens, because you will find some really wonderful things. Every time I do a beer dinner, Russ, someone comes up to me at the end and says, wow, I only came because my husband wanted me to come, or sometimes because my wife wanted me to come, and I don't drink beer, but by the time I got to the end of the meal, I'm a fan, and I'm going to go find me some beer things to try every single time because of the way beer works with food. So you got that going for you. We'll switch gears, and I'll take another quick sip because I don't want to offend Russ.
I didn't know he was going to get so excited about this. We talked about what this Beer 101 was going to be, and I thought, okay, I'm all right with that. And all of a sudden here, I feel like I've been to the mountain. I've seen the light.
Yes.
Holy moly.
Well, and I tend to get caught up when I start talking like this, and I do really personally feel this way about the beer, that I think beer is literally changing our world. This is without a doubt the best time in the history of mankind to be a beer drinker.
Unquestionably.
And there's so much out there to explore, and so much new flavors and new styles and new ways to brew and new experimental ingredients that you're not going to hit a wall. You're not going to get to a point where you feel like you've tasted every beer. There will come a time when you're a giant fan of IPAs, say, like I am, where I feel like, wow, every one of these IPAs is starting to taste the same. And then I go drink stouts for a little while, or sour beers, or fruit beers, and then I come back to IPAs, I was like, oh, I've missed you so much. So there's that huge world of flavor out there, which is another point. There's something in beer for everyone. There is a beer out there. If you think you don't like beer, you really just haven't explored enough, or haven't found someone who can help you.
That's exactly right.
There is a beer for everybody. The folks that come in that think they only like Moscato and Chardonnay, this guy right here is a great gateway in. And there's a beer along the way for everyone, from the very light Pilsners and Hefeweizens and light German and Czech styles, all the way through into the big and malty and earthy English styles, and then the more aggressive side on American styles, because some folks come into beer and they only want the very light, or the very smooth and rich, or the sweet and fruity, or some folks come in and want the bitter and aggressive. That was the way I came in. And there's no wrong way. You're going to come in, you're going to find something that you like, it's going to click with you, and you're going to realize how big this world of beer really is. And this place has been Beer Central in town for so long. That's what they've been doing here for forever. I mean, they have some wines, but they really just sell beer here for 20 years. And they have converted so many people in this town. Barley's Tap Room, I mean. And when I say this place, sometimes I think we talk about it, but sometimes I don't think we talk about it enough. But that is, the fact of the matter is, there are so many hundreds of different flavors in beer. There's something out there for everyone.
One of the things that, I can't say bugs me, but one of the things that I sort of roll my eyes at is when somebody says to me, oh, this microbrewery thing, this small brewery thing is going to come, it's going to hit a wall, and it's going to come to a screeching halt, and these places are going to start going out of business. And really, it happens. It doesn't matter what the type of business is. Occasionally,
somebody's not going to make it.
Yeah, somebody's not going to make it. But when you think of, I used to be a big wino. I drank a lot of wine and knew a lot about wine and enjoyed wine, and I still do, but I don't put the money into it I used to. But all you have to do is drive through California, number one, where there's, I don't know how many hundreds of vineyards and wineries, and every state now almost has, even like Arizona or Utah, have wineries. You can't grow anything there, but they've got wineries, and people are buying the wines because it's like politics. Everything's local, and the beers, you go into these little breweries, and they're making some great beer, and who cares if they're only distributing within an 8-block radius?
Right.
They're selling enough beer that they're making money.
Well, and that's a trend I expect to continue in beer. Is that
I do too.
I expect us to continue to get more local ingredients and local breweries and local markets. So, and you're totally right. There is going to come a saturation point at some point, but I don't think that we're heading toward like a .com bubble. Which a lot of people do. They're like, we got 18 breweries in this town. There's no way they're all going to last. Well, yeah, they are. I mean, go look at Portland and San Diego, and if we're preaching to you guys, you already know. I think San Diego's got 70 breweries just in the city, 70 of them. And that's a lot of beer.
What's Asheville have?
I bet Asheville's got 45. Yeah. And they're a tiny little town.
That's a little town. What are we? In Greenville.
I think, I said 18 because I think that's our number right now.
18.
And we're not a small town in the grand scheme of things.
6-7 years ago, there were three.
There were three.
4.
I think it was 4 years ago there were 3.
Yeah.
And now they're popping up everywhere, and it's been nothing but good. And beer is good for the economy. Any of these manufactured items, and that's no different than whiskey or wine. If you're making it locally, it's going to be good for your local economy. That's just how it is.
Yep.
So all of this really speaks to things that I don't want to get political here, but we start talking about manufacturing jobs and all this kind of stuff. We're forgetting that some of these other jobs are popping up, brewery jobs, winery jobs, and distilleries that are popping up all over. Those are manufacturing jobs in the real grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the beer. I don't want to talk about politics anymore.
I didn't know we were talking about politics. Maybe it's because I've had 3 or 4 sips of this wonderful.
Yeah, Doug, please, Aliashcario, if you get a chance, go get some. The last thing, we'll let these people get out of here instead of dragging this thing out for forever, because Lord knows I could if I wanted to, but the other big thing that I really think is different about beer is its affordability and temperance qualities, if you will, that, years and years ago, beer was always considered the beverage of temperance. They didn't have soft drinks. Coca-Cola didn't exist in the 1300s, but beer did.
Right.
And so did wine, and so maybe some spirits did back then, but when you started seeing, paintings like Gin Alley and Beer Lane, you could see the difference in what people thought about the two things, beer being the beverage that you drank not to get drunk. And while beer will definitely get you there, you can sit down with a beer at 3 or 4% alcohol, and it tastes fantastic, and it's still a beautiful beverage, and it still engenders conversation. You can talk about it. It is meaningful in some way to drink it, and it's still a 3% alcohol. And you could still sit down and get really good, even craft beers, especially if you want to go to the grocery store and get a 12-pack of them, for $1 or $1.50 a can, which is what you're going to pay for one of the big guys. And you're getting good quality, crafted, somebody meant to make this. Well, that's being a little unfair to the big guys, but they mean to make the beer that they make too, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, you're going to find different things as you start to explore what beer really has to offer.
Right.
And being able to sit down with a beverage that's affordable, that you can sit down and drink 2 or 3 of and not break your wallet or your liver, is magic. It really is the beverage of the people. And the more we realize that it is and what it is, the more we demand from our brewers that they brew us that kind of beer, then the better our communities and our world are going to be.
Hip, hip, hooray.
And now I'm off my soapbox. We'll say that's official. At this point, I'm just going to take another sip. We'll wrap this thing up.
There you have it. Beer 101.
Yeah. Tell your friends.
See you next time.
Cheers.